We have a very special guest here. Former Governor of Virginia, Bob McDonnell, has come in. Governor, great to see you with us.
John, it's so great to be back on, and congratulations on your statewide presence now. You used to be just a Hampton Roads guy, and now you're statewide, so congratulations.
It all started with you, Governor. You came on my show when I first stared. You came on my show on a regular basis.
I think you were a 2-watt station at that time, or something like that.
And you would come on a every other week. You came on, so you put me on the map. So that's why.
Too kind.
Yes, well, that's.
But now you got veto.
I've got veto. I want to compliment you on something, and then we'll have a couple minutes to go forward. But as you remember, when you passed the Great Transportation Compromise in 2013, right? Remember that?
Yes. That
was your signature legislation. There was a lot of Republicans opposed to it. A lot of the Tea Party people going crazy over it, saying there was a tax increase. I was about the only Republican in media at the time, 100% behind you on it, as you remember. And I live in Southeast Virginia like you do. Let's fast forward 6 years later. The progress we call the area Hampton Roads, but they didn't have any roads. Now you could actually say it with pride because we have bridges, we have roads, we have tunnels, and it is cut. It's not even done. It's only about half done, and it's already cut 1 hour off my weekly commute from Virginia Beach to Washington. When it's all done, it's going to cut an hour and a half off it. And so you can't get that kind of progress without paying for it, right?
Well, that's right. And it's infrastructure. It's not recurring operations that get embedded into a budget where you increase spending over long, sustained periods of time. It's capital expenditures. And, the bill actually cut the gas tax by about a third, but did have a slight bump in the sales tax, and then put a lot of general fund money into it, which means you cut spending from other areas in order to fund it. So that's why it became a compromise. But it really became quality of life. We hadn't spent new money on roads in 27 years, John, and obviously Hampton Roads, from the Bridge Tunnel to 460 to the interstate going from Richmond to Hampton Roads was just unacceptable. It was dangerous, and it impacted the quality of life. You mentioned an hour of your time. Time's money, and so we thought this was the right thing to do. 45 Republicans, 44 Democrats voted for the final bill, so it was a bipartisan teamwork, and delighted the way people came together to solve a real problem. That's what people expect out of government.
Well, that was, and now we're seeing. As you say, we're seeing the results of it with new tunnels. We're getting a new high-rise bridge, all that stuff. I've only got about 5 or 6 minutes with you. I want you to tell our audience about your reconciliation effort and what you're doing in Virginia right now with that, and who is on your team for that.
Well, John, thank you for the opportunity. This is, of course, as most Virginians know, this is the 400th anniversary of a lot of major events in 1619 in Virginia, the first women, the first General Assembly, the first Thanksgiving, but also the first African citizens coming to Virginia at Fort Monroe, Virginia, August of 1619 on the White Lion ship, and they became slaves, and so started the slave industry in Virginia. Ultimately, the capital became right here, Richmond, Virginia, about 300 yards from where we are at the Lumpkins Jail. They became the place where men and women were bought and sold. It was called the Devil's Half Acre because it was such a horrific place. African American cemetery right nearby. So we wanted to use this year as an opportunity to really tackle this issue and have a serious conversation between people, black, white, Democrat, Republican, about where do we go from here? Given tell the truth about what happened with slavery, its aftermath, Jim Crow, massive resistance, all the things that happened in Virginia, Charlottesville, but also first African-American governor, Doug Wilder, and all the other progress on civil rights that have been made in our state. So we wanted to foster dialogue. We've got people from leaders from business, the legislature, the faith community, the arts, and others that have come together to say, here's what we need to do to have a really deep dialogue about where are we in America, what can we do, things like a pulpit exchange program between black and white churches, key leaders walking the Richmond slave trail to get a sense of what it was like to be taken off a slave ship and go and being bought and sold, so you get a real understanding of that. And then tonight, John, that's why I'm so glad you have me on. We're here today because we have the descendants, the great-great-granddaughter of Dred Scott, the Virginia slave from Southampton County, Virginia, that was slave most of his life, and then ultimately the infamous case, 1857, Dred Scott, where by a 7-2 decision, Chief Justice Roger Taney said that black people are not U.S. citizens. A horrific U.S. Supreme Court decision. Took the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to overrule that, and a war as well. So it was a significant event. So today we have the descendants of Dred Scott, Lynn Scott Jackson from St. Louis, and then the descendants of that Chief Justice. Charlie Taney is here from Connecticut. And they're here for a series of activities. They're going to walk the slave trail. They'll be introduced in the General Assembly. They'll talk to some legislators in the caucus. And then they're holding a forum tonight, 7 to 9, at Virginia Union University. People can go to the website, virginiansforreconciliation.com. Find out the details. We still have a few seats left, so if people would come, I think it'll be a fascinating story of how the Taney family 2 years ago went to the Scott family and apologized for what their Chief Justice ancestor did. They've become friends. They travel the country now together to talk about how it's possible to reconcile black and white across the divisions of history. They travel sometimes with the descendants of Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Jefferson Davis, all together to be able to talk about this important issue. Because, John, here's the bottom line. We've just got to do better. Our country has devolved into really some incivility, the way people treat each other in the culture, and certainly in Washington, D.C., in the political realm. And, we're going to become a majority non-white nation by 2046, according to the demographics of America today. And so learning how to work together, live together, pray together, solve problems together, black and white, is critical for America. And we're trying to do a little piece to help get that going today.
If you want more information or go to the forum, go to virginiareconciliation.com.
It's virginiansforreconciliation.com, all one word, but with all the information about what we're doing and about the event tonight at Virginia Union will be on that website. We'd love to have people from all over the state to attend.
Virginiansforreconciliation.com.
That's it.
That's
it, John.
Word. Governor, I really thank you for what you're doing. We're with former Governor of Virginia, Republican Bob McDonnell. I got to take off, but one more question. Politics. Governor Northam, should he resign or not?
I've said several times I don't think so. Governor Northam's a member of our committee, and back in January, way before this event happened that caused all the scrutiny, he stood by our side, spoke passionately about this issue. He signed a proclamation making this the year of racial reconciliation. He agreed to walk the slave trail with his cabinet. That man that I saw at that press conference has no resemblance to the person that might have been in that photo 35 years ago. I think he's sincere about doing some things to foster the dialogue this year and create racial harmony and equity in our culture. So, he got duly elected by the people. I'm a different party. I'm a Republican, but he was elected, and I think he should do his job and do it well.
Governor, last question. Big scuttlebutt today because the Democrats in the General Assembly and the House of Delegates have refused again Speaker Kirk Cox's offer to have a bipartisan hearing for the accusers of Virginia's Democratic Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. Should the Democrats participate in that or not? What's your view, sir?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the majority of them called for Mr. Fairfax to resign, which I thought was precipitous without knowing any of the facts, truly. But two credible people have come forward, made allegations. It seems to me that as a minimum, this ought to be investigated. If law enforcement won't do it, then the Speaker of the House certainly has the purview to do it, and it should be a bipartisan effort to get to the facts and go from there.
Governor Bob McDonnell, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you, John. Great to be with you, and congratulations again on all your success.
Thank you, sir.